the capacity that the nation has relied upon to provide us with unmatched technological superiority on the battlefield is now being challenged. It's being challenged by investments in military technology being made by increasingly capable and assertive foreign powers. I believe that today, and in fact every day when I visit our laboratories and organizations across the defense enterprise, I encounter young scientists and engineers pursuing technological innovations motivated to meet the challenge that we see emerging globally, leveraging new and emerging capabilities in a variety of disciplines and applying those technologies to create improved military capabilities informed by operational experience and needs. Our department-wide focus on technological innovation seeks to identify and invest in those unique capabilities that can sustain and advance the department's conventional military superiority into the 21st century. As Secretary Carter mentioned in his remarks on the budget at the Economic Club of Washington on the 2nd of February, we must take the long view and seize opportunities for the future in order to sustain our lead in full-spectrum warfighting. Today, the department employs over 39,000 scientists and engineers in 63 defense laboratories, warfare centers, and engineering centers across 22 states, sustaining our ability to support and field militarily critical technology that often has no commercial equivalent. Our laboratories have produced very significant innovations in vital defense areas such as electronic warfare, propulsion, and weapons design, and maintaining this unique technical expertise within the department is critical for ensuring the department's ability to prepare for future threats. Over the last year, the science and technology community has not only supported the immediate needs of our warfighters, but also has taken actions that have had strategic impact in areas such as helping to eliminate Syria's chemical weapons stockpile and helping to deploy diagnostic laboratories to curb the spread of Ebola in West Africa. However, we cannot innovate and bolster our future technological superiority from within the department alone. Our Defense S&T enterprise touches the broadest range of emerging concepts through our deep engagement with academia, with industry, and our international partners to help keep the DoD smart, knowledgeable, agile, and responsive in the face of new and emerging threats. This includes, as was mentioned, an outreach to a vibrant and growing commercial innovation community that sometimes doesn't see the department as a natural customer and doesn't think initially to apply their technologies to the national security sphere. And we want to break down those barriers and engage that fast-moving sector. In those areas, investments being made by the commercial technology sector are accelerating the development of technologies with critical relevance to future defense capabilities. Many of these small, innovative commercial firms lack knowledge about defense systems, organizations, and problems that could benefit from their products and technology. And that's why we've made investments in activities like DIUX in Silicon Valley as a way to help match DoD customers with some of those potential sources of advanced capabilities that are rising from the commercial enterprises. As the department looks to its future, there are significant challenges that will require renewed emphasis on sustaining our U.S. Technological superiority. The United States must seek to develop and maintain asymmetric advantages, those that take advantage of fundamental U.S. strengths in military and commercial technology innovation and apply them to out-compete our competitors. We must accelerate our approaches to identifying promising technology differentiators, improve our process for mapping technology capabilities to operational advantage, and continue to focus on methods of moving capability much more rapidly from laboratory to field. For the last 6 years, the department has been engaged in a major effort to improve our internal acquisition processes through the Better Buying Power initiatives. The latest iteration of Better Buying Power 3.0 focuses the acquisition system of the department on achieving dominant capabilities through technological excellence and innovation. That emphasis reflects the criticality of research and engineering on our overall acquisition success and emphasizes the need to bring and support a strong and effective DoD laboratory enterprise. I want to point out just very quickly 3 of the many Better Buying Power initiatives that are relevant to our S&T community. The first is the use of prototyping and experimentation to accelerate operational assessment and adoption of key technologies to advance current and future weapon systems. The second is a support for robust DoD STEM engagement to ensure that we have a future workforce and a pool of defense-relevant technical talent available to us to ensure our future capabilities. And finally, I want to point out that Better Buying Power reinforces the cost consciousness of our S&T community using tools like should cost to ensure that we're getting the best return on investment for our taxpayer and warfighter. Our strength is in our people. We must recruit, retain the best and brightest military and civilian scientists and engineers and harness their innovative spirits to give our military forces a warfighting edge. Ultimately, our goal each day must be to ensure that our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines all have the scientific knowledge, the right technology, the advanced systems and tools, the best care, and the decisive advantage and material edge to succeed when called upon. Our research and engineering enterprise really does need to measure its success in the security of our nation and the success of our warfighters. We're trying to drive that home in everything we do. Let me thank you for your support for the Department's science and technology efforts as we work to discover, design, and deliver those technological capabilities that our warfighters will need to shape the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Welby. We now proceed to Ms. Miller.
Chairman Wilson, Ranking Member Langevin, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for this opportunity to discuss the Army's Science and Technology Program for fiscal year 2017. The United States faces a complex and growing array of security challenges across the globe. A new generation of threats and opportunities has emerged and that will continue to develop in unprecedented ways. Technology is evolving and proliferating at an exponential rate, and our enemy's access to this technology has closed the gap in our operational overmatch. We are in a race with our adversaries to harness the field the best military applications of innovation. In the 1990s, the Army made great strides to advance night vision technology into operational capability to own the night. Based on those early S&T investments and the great work of our industrial base, the U.S. has enjoyed overmatch in night operations for almost 2 decades. Today, other countries have developed or acquired similar capabilities, eroding our significant advantage. This is just one example of the impact of the globalization of technology and emphasizes our need to continue to innovate alternative technologies and operational methods to maintain overmatch. The Army S&T enterprise cannot predict with certainty what challenges and threats the future holds, but it can organize itself to help prepare for the future, mitigating the possibility of technical surprise and ensuring that we remain dominant in any environment. Transparency, efficiency, and flexibility help us to invest our limited resources where they have the greatest payoff. This framework allows us to adjust our approach in response to changing circumstances. I am proud to represent the U.S. Army's nearly 12,000 scientists and engineers who are innovative change agents committed to solving difficult national security challenges and developing the capabilities needed by America's soldiers to overcome adversaries, both today and into the future. In past years, I have detailed to the committee our enduring Army challenges and how they influence the Army S&T's technology portfolio investments. Today, I would like to take this opportunity to describe some newer strategic initiatives that cut across our portfolios and are instrumental in helping us realize our objectives. To quote General Milley, the Chief of Staff of the Army, "We will do what it takes to build an agile, adaptive Army of the future. We need to listen and learn, first from the Army itself, from other services, from our interagency partners, but also from the private sector and even from our critics. Developing a lethal, professional, and technically competent force requires an openness to new ideas and new ways of doing things in an increasingly complex world." These strategic initiatives that I am discussing here are designed to help the Army do just that: listen, learn, change, and adapt. Technology wargaming is a reconnaissance effort undertaken by the S&T enterprise to foster greater innovation. It is focused on identifying concepts and conducting technology-based assessments about what technology will look like in the deep future, the 2030 to 2040 timeframe, and how this will affect both the Army and our adversaries. It includes crowdsourced brainstorming, conducting virtual workshops with subject matter experts, and red teaming potential technology concepts to ensure technical feasibility. At the heart of this initiative lies a commitment to solid analysis and a focus on bringing in fresh ideas from a wide community, including innovative thinkers who haven't traditionally been a part of the Army's S&T planning process. We use these war games as the basis for strategic conversations on potential leap-ahead capabilities for the future force and how best to align resources and organizations to pursue those opportunities. Another key component of our S&T strategy is broadening and deepening our ability to identify, understand, and eliminate potential vulnerabilities in emerging technologies and future systems that could threaten their success upon deployment in Army operational settings against an evolving and responsive threat. Our S&T Red Teaming investment provides in-depth, independent assessments of emerging technologies across laboratories, tabletop, and live field environments. A number of years ago, the Army entrusted my office to initiate a pilot focused on technology transition. They established a Budget Activity 4 funding line with the intent to enable the Army to better transition across the often cited Valley of Death. This pilot began with a small amount of dollars, but with a large vision, a vision that hinged upon establishing collaborative partnerships with the acquisition and requirements communities, conducting co-led technology maturation efforts for pre-milestone A or B activities leading into programs of record, and building prototypes that could be used by operators in mission scenarios to allow candid feedback on new capabilities. By understanding the technology trends of the future, assessing technology and system vulnerabilities, and conducting maturation and prototyping earlier in the acquisition lifecycle, we can identify and address areas of risk before the government commits funding to programs of record. Ultimately, it is more cost-effective to prove out innovative concepts and capabilities within the science and technology program than it is under a formal program acquisition. Finally, I would also like to acknowledge the support provided by members of this committee and your staff. Congress is one of our most important partners, and your strong support of the S&T enterprise helps ensure that the U.S. Army remains a preeminent force in the world. The Army S&T mission is never complete. We will continue working to ensure that our soldiers are always equipped with the technology to win. We owe our soldiers no less. Thank you, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miller, and we now proceed to Admiral Winter.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wilson, Ranking Member Langevin, and distinguished members of this subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to discuss our Department of Navy Science and Technology investment strategy that ensures our sailors and Marines will retain the technological advantage on the battlefield, which is absolutely essential. Today, I am representing an incredible team of more than 4,000 scientists and technical professionals in the Naval S&T community. My testimony will provide a snapshot of our Naval S&T investment strategy that is fully supported by the President's fiscal year 17 budget request. As you know, the DON has a rich history of pushing the boundaries of our science and technology to ensure our Navy and Marine Corps are equipped with the capabilities that they require to perform the full range of military operations assigned to our naval forces in every theater against every known threat. Our ability to maintain that decisive technological advantage starts right here at the Office of Naval Research. With our 70th anniversary this coming August, the Office of Naval Research has been delivering that technological advantage to our naval forces for over 7 decades, leveraging the intellectual capital of our scientists to discover the new knowledge that generates the breakthrough technologies that delivers the innovative solutions to win our nation's battles and, as importantly, strive for a global peace. The President's FY17 budget request funds the required initiatives to support our Naval S&T strategy, which is a key enabler in realizing our Navy's design for maintaining maritime superiority and our Marine Corps' priority for modernization and technology outlined in Advanced to Contact Strategy, both of which were unveiled in January by our Chief of Naval Operations and our Commandant of the Marine Corps, respectively. Our logical and forward-looking science and technology investment strategy leverages our S&T community triad, academia, industry, and government performers, to realistically deliver technological advantages. Our investments continue to yield a very high rate of return in terms of intellectual capital growth through our extensive academic STEM outreach initiatives, fostering of new, innovative small businesses through our Small Business Innovative Research initiatives, and providing of game-changing next-generation capabilities for our sailors and Marines through the partnerships with academia, industry, and our Naval Research and Development establishment. During my first full year here as the Chief of Naval Research, this team has accomplished a lot. We've awarded over 4,000 academic grants to domestic and international universities, inspiring and retaining the nation's best and brightest talent. Our basic research conducted at our premier Naval Research Laboratory has generated over 200 basic research projects, resulting in discoveries of new knowledge, phenomenologies, and technologies. Last year, we filed over and were awarded over 380 technical patents for new discoveries. It was the 16th consecutive year that the U.S. Navy ranked first amongst all U.S. government agencies. And we successfully transitioned and demonstrated over 200 key technologies across that valley of death out of S&T to our warfighters and to programs of record. Leveraging these accomplishments, our O&R teams are executing ongoing research programs in a number of key priority areas that are yielding that high payoff and potential game-changing capabilities for our sailors and Marines. I'd like to highlight a couple. Directed energy. Our directed energy efforts will enable our naval forces to truly fight at the speed of light. O&R-funded research delivered a solid-state laser to the USS Ponce last year, successfully demonstrating destruction of surface and air targets. Our hypervelocity projectile program, the HVP, was successfully fired from a 5-inch Mark 45 gun with a ballistic range of 34 nautical miles. We've had over 40 HVP firings to date and have been executed, paving the way for accelerated transition and leading to significant capability enhancement for our future naval force. Another critical warfighting enabler is access to assured information by keeping our Navy and Marine Corps cyber doors locked. Our naval tactical cloud research is providing the framework and big data analytics for our platform cyber defense solutions, such as resilient hull, mechanical, and electrical security system. We call it RIMES. RIMES is a cyber protection system designed to make its shipboard mechanical and electrical control systems resilient to cyber attacks. Autonomy. Autonomy in the undersea domain is extending our capabilities in new ways. We've demonstrated our hybrid fuel cell powered large displacement unmanned underwater vehicle, we call it LDUUV, and it completed its first test at our Naval Surface Warfare Center, Carter and demonstrated the ability to launch a fuel cell powered unmanned air vehicle from the underwater vehicle. Finally, our warfighters will benefit from our incredible breakthroughs in synthetic biology and medical research. Advances in medical technology, for example, including 3D printing of live tissue into arteries, veins, and capillaries, will ensure that those in the battle and those returning from battle will not only survive, but will thrive. Throughout this coming year, our focus will remain on rapidly delivering these innovative technological solutions. Examples of our initiatives coming in 2016, 2 new forward-looking innovative naval prototypes that will push game-changing technologies and capabilities to maintain our superiority in the undersea domain and our electromagnetic domain. Directed energy efforts will continue on the USS Ponce. We'll leverage those lessons learned, and we are moving forward with the technology maturation effort of a 150 kilowatt capability for future platforms, while we continue to work on the ground-based capabilities with our United States Marine Corps, the GBAD system, which will give a vehicle-based high-energy laser capability to our 21st century Marine. We also are demonstrating at-sea capability for our low-cost UAV swarming technologies. We'll be able to launch, form, control, and task 30 UAVs in an offensive swarm. And finally, we will take the next step in undersea autonomy, and we'll conduct a long-endurance transit test of our LDUUV operating submerged from San Diego to San Francisco. Our O&R scientists' contributions are marked and making a marked difference to our Navy and Marine Corps. Key to these accomplishments are our partnerships. Partnerships with industry and academia, partnerships with our sister services in DARPA, and through our 6 O&R global locations around the world in London, Prague, Tokyo, Singapore, Santiago, and Sao Paulo, working with our international S&T partners around the world. We will continue to expand and deepen these partnerships to execute our S&T mission. Through innovative research, disruptive thinking, and high-velocity learning, always striving to make existing systems more effective and affordable while improving breakthrough technology transitions to acquisition programs and our sailors and Marines. And in doing so, we remain aligned with our Navy and Marine Corps leadership. Our Chief of Naval Operations and Commandant of the Marine Corps strategic guidance is underpinned by our forward-thinking S&T investments. We cannot afford to do business as usual and wish away the technological advantages of emergent global actors that are challenging our warfighting supremacy. Our S&T strategy provides the framework to think and act differently for success. We must be committed, all of us, committed to pursuing the technology solutions for tomorrow, today. It is essential to tie the technical to the tactical to the strategic, and we in the Navy and the Marine Corps are committed to ensuring the S&T resources that you and your congressional colleagues provide us gets the most bang for the buck by giving our sailors and Marines the technological advantage on the battlefield to fight the fight and keep the peace. One final note, I offer to each and every one of you an open invitation to visit one of our 15 warfare centers and system centers around the world, or excuse me, around the United States, and right here in Anacostia, our Naval Research Laboratory, where you can get a firsthand look at our world-class scientists, engineers, civilian employees that are the ones that are really making things happen. Gentlemen, I appreciate and thank you for your time this afternoon and your continued support of our S&T efforts. I look forward to answering your questions.
Admiral, thank you very much. And it's very encouraging to hear about the public-private partnerships you identified. Dr. Walker.
Thank you. Chairman Wilson, Ranking Member Langevin, members of the subcommittee and staff, I'm pleased again to have the opportunity to provide testimony on the fiscal year 2017 Air Force Science and Technology Program and our efforts to innovatively and affordably respond to warfighter needs today while simultaneously creating the force of the future. I'd like to thank Congress and especially this subcommittee for your continued support of the Air Force's S&T programs, our laboratories, the infrastructure, and most importantly, our valuable scientists and engineers. Over the past 3.5 years that I've been the Air Force's Science Technology Executive, I have seen the fruits of your labors in our ability to advance game-changing technologies, continue to develop our people, and strengthen the industrial base for the long-term security of our nation. As you've heard from my colleagues today and from the Air Force senior leaders in the past, we're at a critical juncture in history. The relentless pace of change continues to increase the complexity and decrease the predictability in warfare. We believe our science and technology program, capability development processes, our STEM workforce, our laboratory infrastructure are all critical to achieving new levels of strategic agility to address this rapid rate of change. By strategic agility, I mean harnessing the attributes of flexibility, adaptability, and responsiveness in order to make us more effective in the rapidly changing world. As highlighted in the Air Force strategy, strategic agility allows us to address evolving threat environments faster than our adversaries, which can help us counter uncertainty. Our efforts in this area, many of which are described in my written statement, support the Department's third offset strategy and are aligned with the Long-Range Research and Development Planning Program. Further, the Air Force is leveraging Mr. Kendall's Better Buy and Power 3.0 initiatives to strengthen our ability to innovate, to achieve technical excellence, and to field dominant military capabilities. Air Force senior leadership is committed to S&T investment and embracing new paradigms in capability development. Our FY17 President's budget request for S&T is approximately $2.5 billion, which represents a 4.5% increase over our FY16 budget. We emphasize research in hypersonics and low-cost cruise missile technologies for contested environments in support of the Long-Range Research and Development Planning Program. We're working on advanced combat missiles, research and technologies that provide robust position, navigation, and timing capabilities, and also focusing on the Air Force's game-changing technologies, which include hypersonics, autonomous systems, unmanned systems, directed energy, and nanotechnology. As a whole, this research is designed to amplify the speed, range, and flexibility and precision of air power. Our FY17 President's budget request also includes increased funding in budget activities 4 and 6 to support our development planning, prototyping, experimentation, and our model and simulation efforts. The reinvigoration of development planning in the Air Force at the enterprise level gets us back to our roots and allows us to really formulate innovative strategy choices and to leverage the attributes of agility in our capability development. The Air Force is using enterprise capability collaboration teams as an approach to facilitate the developmental planning of our highest priority mission areas. These teams are chartered by senior leadership to explore cross-domain concepts of operations combined with the existing and emerging technologies to address future warfighting gaps. The ultimate goal is to identify capabilities, concepts of operations, emerging technologies to inform acquisition decisions in the future. Experimentation is the engine to our reinvigorated development planning process. It enables the unfettered exploration of alternatives in future environments and brings together our operators, it brings together technologists, the requirements generators, and the acquisition professionals, all collaborating together from the beginning to the end to develop a truly integrated approach to solving warfighting problems. We're currently conducting 4 pilot experimentation campaigns addressing future concepts for close air support, operationalizing directed energy, reducing time to move from data to decisions, and defeating agile and intelligent targets. We're also focusing on prototyping as a valuable tool across all levels of technology maturation, from initial concepts to operational prototypes. Our Adaptive Engine Transition Program is an excellent example of prototyping being used to reduce risk and bridging the gap between S&T and a program of record. None of these efforts would be possible without our world-class scientists and engineers operating state-of-the-art laboratory facilities. We continue to leverage the authorities in lab demo, the SMART scholarships, and other funding sources to recruit, retain, and develop our Air Force STEM workforce. In addition, we are leveraging Section 219 and MILCON funding to build and maintain world-class laboratory facilities for them to operate in. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, and staff, thank you again for the opportunity to testify today. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Walker. We now proceed to Dr. Prabhakar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Langevin. Members of the subcommittee, I'll add my thanks for this opportunity to be here with my colleagues. DARPA works closely with this entire defense science and technology community, and we also work with defense companies, with commercial companies, with universities and labs of all sorts. We are very much part of this wide ecosystem. Within that ecosystem, DARPA has one specific role, and that is to make the pivotal early investments in the technologies that can have huge impact, off-scale impact on the future of national security. Now, today when we do that work, we do it in the context of these shifts in global security, in the global security environment, in a world that's filled with fast-moving technologies, very much the themes that we've been talking about this afternoon. I wanted to give you one concrete example that brings all of that to life, and it's an example about aircraft self-protection. Today, when our aircraft go out on their missions, they're loaded up with a set of jamming profiles. So these are specific frequencies and waveforms that they can transmit in order to jam and disrupt an adversary radar to protect themselves. Sometimes when they go out today, they encounter a new kind of frequency or a different waveform, one that they're not programmed for, that's not in their library, and in a time of conflict, that would leave them exposed. So what do we do when we come across that situation today? Today, what we do is we have to send a new aircraft out, a different aircraft out to collect that signal. That signal is then sent to a lab where it's analyzed, where a new jamming profile is created, where the new software upgrade for the system is developed, and then eventually, months, sometimes years later, our aircraft finally get the protection that they need against this new kind of radar signal. Now, in a time when our adversaries were changing their radar signals very rarely, that might have been okay. But of course, that very slow-moving world is now gone. And in fact, it's actually just not that hard to modify a radar system today. If you think about it, the same technologies that have brought communications and the internet to billions of people around the world, those are the same technologies that now people are using to modify radars, to shift their frequencies and to use new waveforms. And we see that going on in many different regions around the world. One of our programs at DARPA is taking a whole new approach to this problem. This is an effort that we refer to as cognitive electronic warfare. We're using artificial intelligence to learn in real time what the adversary's radar is doing, and then on the fly create a new jamming profile. And that whole process of sensing, learning, and adapting is going on continuously. So what all of that means is that our aircraft in the future won't have to wait weeks, months to years, but in real time, in the battle space, they'll be able to adapt and jam this new radar threat that they get. I think that's just one example of how powerful it can be to first accelerate these areas of research and technology and then apply them for our military capabilities. And across the DARPA portfolio, you'll find many, many other examples of that kind of power of technology. They range from new systems that we're developing. We just put in the water our new surface vessel that will be able to navigate across the open ocean by itself without a single sailor on board. If you look across our research portfolio, you'll find that we're harnessing photons and algorithms and even living cells to open possibilities that people really just couldn't even have dreamt about until today. And I'm happy to talk about all of that, but I want to finish this afternoon by just touching on two pillars of your support that are so vital for us to be able to do this work. The first, of course, is the budget, and your support here has been vital to a relative stability that we've benefited from at DARPA over the last few years. So I'll ask again for your full support of the fiscal 17 President's budget request level. The second area is people, and of course, nothing could be more important to that than that. I want to really give a special thanks to the work that this committee has done over many years, first in creating a special 1101 hiring authority, and then over many years supporting that. That is a big reason that DARPA is able to move fast and hire exceptional people. And really, great people and that trust that you have in us, that is why DARPA is able to develop breakthrough technologies that allow us to take these huge strides forward in our national security capabilities. And with your continued support, that's exactly what we will continue to do. So thank you very much, and I'll look forward to answering questions along with my colleagues.
And Dr. Prabhakar, thank you very much. And I also want to thank you so much for the opportunity ahead to visit your facilities, to visit your personnel. It really is reassuring, and I hope that other members of the subcommittee will take advantage of the open invitation you have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to come visit. And but it really is inspiring, the personnel that you've assembled. As we now begin the very strict 5 minutes, beginning with me, Mr. Welby, could you explain the third offset strategy? How are science and technology investments being aligned to support that strategy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we've discussed in I think every statement here today, we find ourselves increasingly challenged by near-peer competitors who are investing in high-end capabilities, in ballistic missiles, in advanced cruise missile technology, in advanced electronic warfare, and other capabilities that directly challenge U.S. systems. We recognize that as we look to the future, it's going to be increasingly difficult to compete with those capabilities in an investment for investment, dollar for dollar, system for system basis. We need to be thinking harder about how we shift the shape of competition, the playing field on which our soldiers, sailor, airmen, Marines will be fighting, into areas where we can ensure that the United States has an enduring, dominant technical capability. The Deputy Secretary regularly talks about the first and second offset strategy, looking back to competition with the Soviet Union and in the 50s how tactical nuclear weapons were deployed to counter the numerical superiority of that threat, and how in the 70s and 80s the Department developed precision weapons, ISR, low observability, novel use of space, network-centric capabilities, the toolkit that we've fought with since to remarkable success. Today, we now see others around the world building capabilities directly designed to blunt those U.S. advantages. We now see others having those capabilities which were once purely the domain of the United States. And as that symmetry begins to develop between ourselves and potential competitors, we want to ensure that we have asymmetric advantage that we can deploy in the future. This whole discussion about offset strategy is about finding those technology offsets, how they map into operational capabilities, how we can invest in those capabilities that will begin to move the ball in a way that will shape a long-standing advantage for U.S. capabilities. And we believe those capabilities will arise from the emerging technical innovations that were discussed here today in areas like thinking about new long-range systems and exploiting manned-unmanned machine teaming in new ways and leveraging autonomy to build things like cognitive warfare systems, counter-electronic warfare systems, and thinking about spectral agility and many of the things that we're working on in our laboratories, but moving them much faster into tactical application and arranging those into strategic concepts that will allow our forces to shape future battlefields. The topics that were mentioned earlier, things like the Long-Range Research and Development Planning Program and activity that I led for the previous 18 months, provided a set of potential options for the future of the department, new material systems that might offer significant advantage in the future. That report, while the report itself remains classified, is reflected in the support and decisions that were made in shaping the 17 budget submission and informed by a number of other studies and areas and the ongoing wargaming activities that are going on across the department. And so the third officer strategy is not a thing, if you will. It's an ambition to think differently about how a department will fight in the future, how the services will align technology, organization, and capabilities to provide that enduring advantage. But it's underpinned in a very significant way by our critical technology investments we're making here across the services.
Well, as a very grateful dad of 4 sons serving in the military, I appreciate you thinking ahead on how to protect our service members and protect the American people. And Dr. Prabhakar, could you describe some of the efforts DARPA has initiated to combat the ability of groups like Daesh to spread violent extremist propaganda and radicalize users online?
Mr. Chairman, you've touched on something that is increasingly becoming integral to any kind of conflict around the world. Obviously, I think we're all aware of the use of social media by ISIL. It's also very integral to hybrid warfare that we see that the Russians engaging in. So I think it's a vital, important area today. DARPA has had programs over the last several years that bring data analytics and tools to end users so that they can start to wrestle with this vast array of bits that are flying at them, whether it's military information or open online information. And building on those, today we're developing some tools that we hope will be very helpful in these kinds of future information conflicts. One specific area in the last year where we've had some good progress, last couple of years, has been focusing on the impact on, we've been working with law enforcement who've been worried about human trafficking, and they've been struggling to really see, if you think about where people advertise for the sex trade, for example, a lot of that is open advertising, but right now our law enforcement partners, we found, really are sort of searching that space, single-threaded, one Google search at a time, if you like, a very arduous way to figure out the patterns and the connectivity of the kinds of ads that are being served up. So what we developed in that case was a set of tools that allow for very deep, domain-specific, deep web search, not just the surface web that's indexed by Google or Bing, but really an ability to go deep into the open web and find all the linkages among ads, for example, for human trafficking that are related to human trafficking. What we find is that it dramatically enhances our law enforcement partners' ability to find those linkages, and that tool is now being used, for example, by the district attorney's office in New York and has led to a number of indictments and even at least one conviction. So I think that gives you a little bit of a sense of the power of the kinds of tools when you apply these big data approaches to these areas like law enforcement. You can see, I think, how that would extend into the information warfare domain that sadly I think is going to become integral to conflicts going forward.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for citing about human trafficking. I'm very grateful my home state of South Carolina, by state legislation and prosecution, has been one of the leading states to address what is just horrific. We now proceed to Mr. Langevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank our panel here again for your testimony here today and the work you're doing in these fields. Admiral Winter, if I can start with you. Can you discuss the relationship and the coordination efforts between ONR and the Strategic Capabilities Office when it comes to directed energy efforts? And certainly I'd like to also hear from our other witnesses how you're working with the Strategic Capabilities Office as well. But Admiral, let's start with you if we could.
Yes, sir. I'm in a periodic contact with Dr. Will Roper, who's the head of the Strategic Capabilities Office. And geographically, they're one block down from my office. And we have continuous discussions about the technologies that ONR is bringing forward that I mentioned in my opening remarks across the spectrum of electric weapons and directed energy specifically, but others. And so we have a number of relationships and technological partnerships with the Strategic Capabilities Office. I'll focus on the electric weapons and the directed energy to your question, sir. Our work with the Strategic Capabilities Office is a partnership in requirements and funding to pursue the science and technology objectives of the Department of the Navy. Our Department of the Navy's strategic focus on laser and directed energy, so high energy laser and also high energy RF technologies to push forward to meet our Marine Corps and Navy objectives continues to move forward in marked progress and moving forward, as I mentioned earlier. The Strategic Capabilities Office has come forward with their analysts and resources to provide us an opportunity to move faster and to move into different directions and partnerships. From an electric weapon perspective, we are in partnership with them on our electromagnetic railgun, but I don't consider that directed energy. I look at that as more as electric weaponry. So right now, sir, those are that's our relationship. That's our engagement. The Strategic Capability Office provides those resources and guidance along the lines of the third offset strategy and other greater departmental warfighting capability analysis. And the Department of the Navy has the opportunity to partner and bring our resources to bear to help Dr. Roper and his team realize their mission.
Okay. We're not going to have to, I'm not going to have time, I don't think, to hear from everybody on that, but I would like to hear your feedback. Maybe you can respond in writing on how you're interacting with the Strategic Capabilities Office. What I would like to ask for all of you, is directed energy a priority? And in particular, is it a priority for the department? I know many of you are working on these things, and Admiral, you've talked about it. But I want to know, is it a priority for the department? Are they ready to accept these technologies once they've matured? And what technologies are maturing in this field? I know you talked about the Ponce, Admiral, so maybe from the other ones, if we could hear your perspective on these things.
Maybe I could start. We can move down the table quickly.
Yeah.
Sir, I believe that today, we've long had a conversation about directed energy being just 5 years off, and it's always been just 5 years off. And I have a strong background in working in directed energy programs. I think we're now today at a very different place, a place where those systems are now rapidly moving towards realization and are going to have impact on future military capabilities. Each of the services has efforts underway today. We heard about the Ponce. I'll let Dave talk about some of the things that the Air Force is doing, particularly in advanced beam direction, I think, that are putting the other pieces together for real airborne lasers, and the opportunities in programs of record in areas like IFPC, where the Army is considering utilizing directed energy as a tool in the counter rocket artillery mortar space. I think we're now seeing application space emergence of capabilities, the breakthrough technologies, smart beam direction, realizable solid-state lasers at high powers, 100 kilowatt plus kind of levels, and the ability to mass large numbers of fiber lasers coherently to be able to assemble and scale in a way that we just have not been able to do. All those, I am very excited about what's happening in each of those spaces, and I'll turn it down the table.
So the Army is committed to pursuing directed energy. Our high energy laser program within the Army S&T is demonstrating capability and has been used in an analysis of alternatives for the indirect fire protection capability program of record. Right now, we are aligned to transition into that program of record in the fiscal year 23 timeframe. Why that long? Because we are doing a stepwise demonstration of capability in the mission set of the Army. So we have to make sure that the lasers work and do the full set of scopes against the threats that we project. And those threats include the counter rockets, artillery, and mortar, but also UAV threats and cruise missile threats. And we're trying to make sure that we understand before we offer it to a soldier what it can do, and they understand its capabilities. And that is already planned in and funded.
On the Air Force side, we've got a strong support for the Air Combat Command and our Air Force Special Operations Command for integrating lasers defensively and offensively onto aircraft in the future. Air Combat Command, together with the Air Force Research Lab, has commissioned called the SHIELD Advanced Technology Demonstration to put a medium-powered laser, 30 kilowatt class laser, into a pod on a fighter aircraft to provide self-protection with the goal to grow the power as the devices grow in power. The Special Operations Command is now commissioned both the Air Force Research Laboratory and the Navy at Dahlgren, working with SOCOM to look at putting a offensive capability onto a AFSOC 130 gunship. So that's a second one we're working. There's a lot of technology in beam steering and in power management and thermal management that has to be worked in these, that we're working under a considered S&T program with a eye toward transition on those two aircraft.
Very good. Thank you. And with that, I know my time I've gone over, and I know Mr. Lamborn has similar questions, my co-chair of the Director Energy Caucus. So in that case, I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langevin. And now we proceed to your teammate, Congressman Doug Lamborn of Colorado.
Thank you. And I thank the co-chairman of the Director Energy Caucus, Representative Langevin of Rhode Island, for beginning this subject. It's such an important subject, and I'm just going to build on what he's already asked. How do you all make sure that you're not duplicating what each other is doing? I see 3 centers of important research of making things operational, not to mention DARPA. And so, and I don't know if that's for you, Mr. Welby, or for the individual branches to respond to, but how do we make sure that there's no duplication, no reinventing the wheel going on, whether it's directed energy or anything?
If I could quickly, I think this is a great area where we can demonstrate kind of solid cooperation coordination through SD and across the services. The High Energy Laser Joint Technology Office serves as a clearinghouse and a center for coordination across all the efforts across the department. And that allows us to ensure that each of our investments are aligned, not duplicative, and are building on each other. And I think that in each of the domains, there are service unique issues associated with how those will be hosted on future platforms, but there's also supporting technology that services all those needs, and we very well coordinate, I think, in this space across all those areas. And I'll turn it back if anybody has anything.
And Ms. Miller, I see that you've been working on this for 30 years. So, and Admiral, did you want to respond to that as well?
Not to the 30-year question, sir, but the communities of interest that the department has established that allows the services and DARPA to come forward in functional areas allows us to share our resources, our research and our efforts, not specifically for directed energy, but across the board, that allows us to see what I call common, cousin, and unique efforts. And there is some benefit in common research where it's appropriate. But as Mr. Welby mentioned, our uniquenesses for maritime shipboard applications, for example, and also looking at underwater directed energy applications, there's challenges in that. And so our efforts that go forward are looked at the Navy uniquenesses. I'm very, sitting here now at 1 year downrange, very satisfied that we collectively, we meet once a month at the senior level, and we have a working group that meets once a week to talk across our span of 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 research to understand where we can leverage off of each other, and not only within the Department of Defense, but with our industry partners, academia, and our other interagency folks.
Ms. Miller, would you agree that we're, like Mr. Welby has already said, that it's not something that's always 5 years off, that we're now getting a lot closer, if not actually there, with operational directed energy weapons?
I believe-
defensive and offensive?
I believe we're very close. And I think right now what we need to do is build trust with our operators so they understand what lasers can do. Lasers have been promised for an awful long time, and they've never held up and delivered what was asked for. And so the operators are quite rightfully skeptical, which is why you see the services taking lasers out in operational environments and letting them be used by operators so they understand what the capabilities are. I think we're very close, and while we're looking at the large capabilities that these can provide, there will be steps along the way where we will spin out lesser capable laser systems that can do good things on smaller platforms, and that's something that you'll see coming out relatively soon.
A couple things on that, sir. One is the Air Force every day is flying with lasers under our large aircraft infrared countermeasure system. So we've done exactly that. We have spun out lower power lasers that give us a capability to protect our aircraft flying in theater today. The goal is to build off the experiences that we've had there to, as we get larger power outputs, better thermal management out of smaller packaged lasers, to be able to transition these to other aircraft besides our large transport aircraft. And as we build those powers, eventually moving from defensive capability to using that same laser to give us an offensive capability as well. So I think we're on a good path. The move to electric lasers has allowed us to do that. The other point is, one of the reasons that we're able to do this well across the services is that we have a joint technology office that really works those fundamental laser technologies for us as a joint team that we then spin off each into our own particular areas, our domains for usage. And having that office support what we need as the three of us sit on the advisory panel to determine what they're going to actually invest the funds in, it makes sure that they're meeting our needs as a service. And the last piece is our partnership with DARPA has really allowed us to move lasers forward. Moving the slab lasers, electric lasers, and moving into fiber lasers. DARPA has been a key partner in allowing us to do that.
Well, I appreciate the work that you're all doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you, Co-Chairman Lamborn. We now proceed to Congressman Mark Vesey of Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to specifically ask you about talent as it relates to implementing a lot of this new technology. Of course, you know that the Secretary has visited Silicon Valley and talked with the executives there. How does the department tap into these smaller companies? Because so much of what has happened in Silicon Valley and the technology that we're using today, and so much of the technology that our enemies around the world are using. I mean, we've been following this deal with not being able to unlock the iPhone. How does the department tap into the technology that may be available from some of these smaller companies that aren't necessarily coming up through some of the larger defense corporations and things like that we normally use? Anybody that wants to answer, that'd be great.
Let me start again, pass down table. I think we have a number of tools that we use, I think, very effectively to engage small, innovative business, and small business is often the key engine for innovation. Traditional tools like our Small Business Innovative Research Program, our STTR program, and tools like the Rapid Innovation Fund, which has a very large portion of small business engaged in rapidly moving contracts that can be rapidly exploited, moving technology to application. The Secretary has been committed to trying opening the department to new sources of innovation. He's been out engaging small companies in Boston and on the West Coast. We'll have them out in other parts of the country here shortly. Personally demonstrating the importance of the department engaging with small innovative business to think through ways that we can couple what they're working on with the needs of the department. I spent a day last week out at our DIUX facility in Mountain View where we had an afternoon and invited small innovative companies in to come talk to us. And we had over 200 companies show up at that meeting. I spent 2 hours in one-on-ones with small companies afterwards. A lot of these folks don't want to be called small companies, of course, because they want to be the next big thing, and they take that as a bit of a. But it's really kind of remarkable sets of ideas. Traditionally, the challenge has been trying to connect those back to the needs of the department, and many of these companies don't have the time, energy, connections, background knowledge to be able to make those kind of connections. And the question earlier was, what are we trying to do with DIUX? Part of it is to take that burden off those companies and to allow some of our smart folks to serve as shepherds, if you will, to serve as ambassadors, to connect those folks who have ideas, who have a new emerging technology, often focused at a commercial market, and connect them with people in the department who could really apply that. And so we've got folks sitting out in that facility in Mountain View today who understand a lot about the needs of the department. They spend a lot of time talking to small innovative businesses, and they're trying to make those connections every day. We think that's going to help us accelerate the process. It's a people thing as well as simply the kind of making sure we have dollars and contracting vehicles in place.
Yes, and let me ask you another question along the lines as far as innovation and technology. You know, one of the things that has been brought up also is retaining talent, the Pentagon being able to retain talent because Silicon Valley and other tech centers can pay so much more. Just from a budgetary standpoint, do you think that as far as retaining that talent, that maybe we need to look at paying those people more? And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Like, for instance, in state government, like in the state that I'm from or the state that Mr. Aguilar is from, where you have large pension funds, the people that actually are the state employees that run those pension funds are usually the highest paid employees. They make a lot more than the governor makes. Do you think that there should be some sort of a, carve out for individuals, because this is obviously going to be high priority with our enemies being able to more and more use this technology to try to harm us, that we should have some kind of a carve out that will allow us to pay the people that have this expertise and keep them at the Pentagon?
Sir, I don't want to keep them at the Pentagon. I want to keep them out in our laboratories where they're going to make those real compelling changes. But the thing I do worry about is talent. The thing that keeps me up at night is talent. And I'm very excited that under the Force of the Future personnel initiatives that the Secretary's initiated, we're now talking about talent management, talent retention, recruiting, using kind of commercial recruiters as ways to get access to key talent. I don't worry that in the government it's going to be very difficult for us to compete dollar for dollar in terms of salary with folks. I note that last week the National Engineering Salary Survey came out and noted that the average salary, not the talent we're looking for, but kind of average over the engineering profession in the United States, the typical pay increase was 7.5% over the last year. We haven't seen a 7.5% increase in government, I think, ever. So, I mean, every year we kind of fall behind in terms of that offer we're able to make to people. But people don't come to work for us because of the pay. Historically, people came to work for the government because of stability, but the current generation doesn't want stability. What they want is opportunity. And we offer, in many of the laboratories, in many of our critical areas, the ability to make a difference, a mission that's compelling, and access to key technical tools. And in some areas, we are competing directly with the best for the cutting-edge talent. I worry, though, in some areas, biotechnology, in artificial intelligence, computer science, robotics, we are in a strict competition for talent, and I watch those areas very closely. And the folks that I have on my short list of our best, I see more leaving than coming in. And so we're working hard to kind of focus our recruiting efforts in that area. We're thinking about what we can do to augment those people with contracted support or other mechanisms that we can have. But any flexibility in people, I think, is going to be critically important in the future.
I know we're late on time. I'd like to just tag on one small comment. A very specific thing that we use all the time is a special hiring authority that this committee originated in 1999 and has extended over and over again. It's called the 1101 Authority. It gives DARPA a little bit of flexibility in salary levels. Not nearly enough to compete head-on, but exactly as Steve said, it makes it not completely impossible to go after some of these amazing people. But that authority is vital to our ability to bring in amazing people, and we do regularly compete against staggeringly large number salary offers that our candidates are getting, and we're able to get them because they want to come change the world from DARPA. But the specific thing that this committee has an opportunity to, I think, would make a huge difference is that 1101 Authority has been an experimental authority now for 16 years. I think the experiment has really proven out, and I would ask for your support to make that a permanent option for hiring as we go forward.
Thank you.
I'd also like to weigh in on it. One of the things that really allows us to attract top talent is some of our scholarship capabilities. And the SMART program has been one that has been exceedingly successful for the Air Force and for the other services. One of the keys to retaining talent is getting them into the laboratory and getting them the opportunity to actually operate in the laboratory and have the freedom they get and the magnitude of responsibility they get within the government laboratories. SMART program is a way to bring them in and then to continue to educate them as they move forward. And so that's one of the ways we've been able to bring in top talent. And so far, we've been retaining about 87% of our SMART educated folks once their government service mandate is up. So that's been very successful. I'd like to continue that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mr. Beasley. We now proceed to Congressman Pete Aguilar of California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity, and I had similar questions to Mr. Vesey related to your ranks and your pipeline and the number of researchers we have. And I know out of the material that was one of the takeaways that I had is continuing to offer that flexibility and the resources that you have in order to attract and retain those who are at the laboratory level working hard for us. You know, we heard a little bit about directed energy, and within S&T, if you folks, you know, I may be the last questioner here, so, you know, within your crystal ball, if you were talking to your predecessor, or I'm sorry, your successor, you know, 10, 20 years down the line, what areas do you think this committee and those individuals will be working on? And I say that, Mr. Welby, you know, you talked about small businesses and those in the outside world who were thinking about big ideas. But I mean, I look across this table and what you have done in government, the five of you. You know, you're our innovators, and you're our line to weigh and discuss these issues of importance that are going to help protect and defend this country. And so I'd just like to hear a few ideas or examples of things that you feel you would be talking to your successors about, down the line, if you were crystal balling, looking at areas that this committee may have to weigh in on.
Let me quickly start. Sir, I have a great opportunity to kind of spend my life thinking about that future, trying to live in that future, trying to predict what those things that will matter will be. When I look across what's being invested in by my colleagues and the focus we're making within the department, I see 4 areas I'll just bring up. There's many more, but I'll mention these very quickly. One is unmanned and autonomous systems, the work that's going on in the Navy and unmanned undersea vehicles, and the DARPA work in unmanned surface vehicles, the work going on in swarming air vehicles. I think we're going to see a lot of very fundamental change from the baby steps we've taken in that space today to a very different world in the future. I see a real opportunity as we come to the end of Moore's Law, where we've been able to predict microprocessor change over time, to seeing an explosion in new capabilities. We've built industries on the predictability of Moore's Law, which is coming to an end, and it's going to create new opportunities. I think that we're going to see biology as a technology, a major push of DARPA's start to shape the world in fundamental ways. We need to think about that. That's an area for which the department is not as strong as we could be, and we need to start thinking about how we build our biological technology capabilities. Not just we think about biochem defense, but really biology for example, as a manufacturing science. And then thinking about that last topic, manufacturing. What's the future of manufacturing and design? How will we be delivering capability in the future? How will be instantiating that capability to advanced systems? I think that that list is interesting because those 4 things are not going to be unique to defense. All of them are going to have commercial implications, and we need to be, as I tell my folks, we want to be able to surf the coming wave in these areas. But to be a good surfer, you have to be out in front of that wave, paddling in front of it, and we need to be smart in getting out in front of that before those things hit. And so that's my short list anyway, sir.
So he hit 4 critical ones, and in the area of autonomy, we're looking at intelligent systems and how we can get the capability to interface autonomous capability with humans and make sure that we have a seamless way to provide kind of design for individual capability, be it training, be it operating systems. That's an area that goes into the biological sciences that we're not usually accustomed to. And so when we talk about building our workforce and giving them interesting dilemmas to bring them into our team to work for the Department of Defense, that's one of those areas that we're building up our expertise because we see that as critical for the future going forward.
Sir, I just have to look at 30 years ago what was in our Petri dish and test tubes that we're fighting with today. So what should be in our Petri dish and test tubes today that we're going to be fighting with in 30 years that I would tell my successor? I look at areas of brain-based learning, understanding the true neuroscience of human thinking and how we can model that into an engineering model that'll allow us to truly realize cognitive artificial intelligence of man-machine capabilities. That's one area. Breakthrough in our nano and photonic domain of being able to process and transmit data at rates that are just unfathomable today based upon advanced material science, and bringing that together to then enable that cognitive AI and man-based and machine capabilities to levels we haven't even thought about, terminators, those types of things moving forward. And then from a bio-inspired perspective, the advances in our synthetic biology of being able to craft organisms that can eat ferrometallic material and excrete electricity in any domain undersea, a vacuum, allows us to start to think of the possibilities of endless supplies of energy. Endless supplies of energy are things that people scoff at, but the scientists are the ones that are supposed to be doing the things that are scoffed at. So I see areas in brain-based learning, our bio-inspired technologies, our cognitive IA, advanced materials, and photonics and nano areas. Thank you, sir.
I have to say that we're all looking down the same path. One of the areas that I really see promise that in 20 years from now I would hope to be actually the state of the art is really the science of the very small. It's how do we take advantage of nanomaterials, quantum effects, metamaterials, and then how do we link that with biological agents to actually help us manufacture those materials in a very effective way. There's a lot of promise in that area that I think we'll see in the future will move us into being able to build materials that we don't even conceive at this point in time. The other area which Mr. Welby hit on was manufacturing is fundamentally changing. And we're not going to see large factories in the future like we're used to today. We're going to see the ability to actually grow things in other manufacturing technologies that will allow us to get our economic order quantities down to the order of one, which will fundamentally change how we do business, where we don't have to buy 1,000 to be effective. And the final one is in autonomy. We're just scratching the surface with autonomy and aiding humans. Autonomous decision-making to aid humans to be able to execute warfighting from a distance. We're seeing it now as in its very infancy. 20 years from now, we'll just see this as every day. You'll see that every day when you get in your car and your car takes you where you want to go and parks you where you need to be, and you read your iPad the entire time you're going there.
These are all great answers. I think they're terrific. Let me add one different kind of log on the fire. There's something happening with social behavior, with the Internet of Things, and social media. And social behavior itself is changing, but also how we can look at and understand social behavior is changing in some fundamental ways. It's gonna, in the next 10 or 20 years, I think it is going to give us even bigger headaches than we already see. We're gonna have privacy headaches, we're gonna have information warfare headaches. We see that today. I think those are gonna get worse over time. But at the same time, what's happening is, I think there's gonna be a fundamental shift in our ability to understand social behavior. And I would submit that there's actually nothing more fundamental to national security than that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you, Mr. Aguilar. And Dr. Prabhakar, as you said, headaches. I was hoping with the Internet it would be opportunity. And it should be both. But sadly, recently I've seen more headaches than I've seen opportunity. And so we're counting on you to figure out how to address the headaches. And so, again, I'm just very grateful for each of you for your service, and there being no further business, and upon the advice of Mr. Langevin, we are now adjourned.